What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Christian, Shad. What's going on, fellas?
It's good with y'all boys.
What's good? What's good? Another week.
Another week close to crowning a champion in the NBA. Obviously, we got the WNBA kicked off this weekend as well. That was met with a lot of some of the same bullshit that was we saw last year.
Mhm.
And we got a quarterback finally signing his contract, so we'll get into that a little bit as well. But to start, we've officially know who the final four teams are in the NBA. And we will be crowning a new virtually a first-time champion. The Knicks obviously got a championship back in the 70s, but it was like right around when they became the NBA. Basically, we're gonna have a first-time champion with OKC, the Timberwolves, the Knicks, and the Pacers being in the Final Four. So how'd you guys feel about, obviously one of the series went to Game 7, kind of like, we thought, or some of us thought might happen. And then the Knicks were able to finish things up in Game 6. So how did you guys feel about the ending of the semifinals and going into the conference round?
I think the matchups make a lot of sense from both sides. So I think even though they were like lower seeds, even though it's a 1 versus a 6, in the West, I think the matchup still makes sense. Then of course the rematch from last year with the Knicks and the Pacers. So that's what kind of gets me more excited than be like, 1 versus 6 seed, 3 versus whatever the Pacers were, 4 seed, whatever. So that's what kind of makes it better. You throw away kind of the seeds, the numbers, look at the teams, and it's like, okay, I can see both of these series being kind of appealing. So I am excited about it. Kind of figured the Thunder would pull that out in Game 7, but they definitely gotta show up and play defense in this series. I think going to Game 7 with the Nuggets and then playing a couple days after, we'll see if there's any kind of lag over from that. And the Minnesota been off for almost like 5 days or whatever. So we'll see how that kind of rust versus rest thing comes in play. But I'm excited about both these series, man. Honestly.
I mean, as far as this the semis went, I mean, good games all the way around. Obviously, it's parity driven, I guess you could say, with the simple fact that a couple of teams that we thought would have made it or would have won end up losing, didn't make it to the to their respective finals. But like you said, Cass, I mean, I'm interested to see. I believe that these 4 teams are like, I'm not gonna say evenly matched, but I can see a path for all 4 of them, each of them to actually win the finals.
Mm-hmm.
I know we can talk about that in a little bit, but like you said, great matchups. You got the on one side, you got the 2 stars that people are fighting to say who can possibly face of the league with Shea more likely being the MVP and with Ant. And then you got the other one, like you said, like last year was a good series last year. Obviously the teams have changed, but I mean, I still think it's a 7-game series waiting to happen for them, because Indiana's one of the teams where it's hard to say they sneaky, because I mean they just was at the conference finals last year and they won the inaugural NBA Cup. Yes, inaugural. They won a second one. Oh yeah, you're right. They won the second one, but I mean, they've been an up and coming team this whole time. So to see them, make it back for 2 years in a row, I mean, you gotta take them serious. But good matchups. That's all I can say is definitely some good matchups.
Actually, let me recorrect that. They played the Lakers.
They played in it. They lost.
Yeah. They played the Lakers.
You're right.
They lost to the Lakers
right.
in the inaugural cup.
They were there. That's what it was. Yeah. Okay.
So,
but I mean,
my bad messing you up.
I messed it up too.
But yeah, it is a good series, and kind of like we said, last week, it is kind of a I don't want to necessarily say a changing of the guard, but with Shea, who is a little bit older, but he's not necessarily a young star. He's not an old star, obviously, either. He's squarely in his prime. But between him and Jalen Brunson, obviously, well, speaking of Jalen Brunson, even though the Dallas Mavericks got the number 1 overall pick last week, it is a little funny that obviously Luka went to the finals last year. against Kristaps, who was also viewed to be the Mavericks' future. So
Mhm.
Luka, Kristaps, and possibly Jalen Brunson all being in the finals. Over the over the past 2 years is a little interesting for the Mavericks. But Jalen Brunson also being in Luka's draft class and kind of in that next tier of stars with Shea and I don't know. It's a little weird because it's a little weird to lump Anthony and Halliburton in that because they are a few years removed from Shea and Jalen Brunson, but they're basically all kind of jumbled up in that next tier of like future stars. So it is good to see. It is we will that's something that's been going viral over the past week or so is that we will have a different champion for the seventh straight year. So no back-to-back champions, obviously with the Celtics and in the Jason Tatum injury and how things ended there. So I do also think it's going to be a good series. I mean, a good conference finals. The only thing that I am a bit nervous about on the East side, and because I am a Colts fan, obviously I see a lot of Pacers stuff and Pacers reporting. And some of the Indy fans might be a little upset and annoyed by people bringing this up and saying this, but even though the Pacers have been on this or in the conference finals for a second straight season, they have basically played injured teams the entire time. And one team that they faced that was healthy was the Celtics, which won really a series. And then even in the Knicks series, Jalen Brunson ended up getting hurt last year. Obviously, OJ Anunoby was doing his Aaron Gordon. Shouldn't have been out there, but couldn't run. Really, he made like a couple threes, really couldn't do nothing. But they were up 2-0. The Knicks were up 2-0 in the series. They were almost up 3-0. So I am interested to see. Obviously, they added like you mentioned, it is different in terms of the players on the Knicks side, maybe not necessarily on the Pacers side, but that will be interesting to see how that dynamic goes. And then on the OKC side, my one thing, and you can they all kind of said it, especially after Game 7. Like they were nervous. Like you could tell how they were playing in the games, in all the games. Really, you could definitely tell how they were playing in Game 7. They were tight, and I said it last week, like Denver was a bit on borrowed time, and obviously with the Aaron Gordon injury, that also kind of accelerated that. But I'm interested to see that because they kind of acknowledged that they were nervous, and because like they kind of got over the hump in a big way with it ending up being a blowout in the end against Denver. Will that be like kind of like, all right, now all that nervous shit is gone now. Like, we about to beat your ass. Which, in reality, like, they probably should have ran through everybody in the West, really, like, given how good they've been all season. And so I am interested to see, like, did they get past that, like, mental block where it's now, like, we all want the Timberwolves to, like, make it a series, but is it really going to be a series, or is it going to be like, hey, they might get, like, Game 3 just because it's the first game at home, and then the rest of it is just, kind of like what we saw with the Grizzlies and getting 50-pieced and whatnot. So it's gonna be it's
a possibility.
It's gonna be interesting.
Sure. Yeah,
and it's gonna be interesting. And another thing is, we'll see the guys step up, because obviously Anthony Edwards is gonna have to take another step, because he did make the conference finals last year, and obviously they didn't get past it, but it'll be interesting to see if he takes another step against a better team than what they played last year. Shea himself obviously getting an opportunity to go to the NBA Finals. He played excellent against Denver. Will you kind of stay steady like how you are, or is there another level that you can go to? Same thing with Halliburton and Jalen Brunson and himself as well. Like, it's going to take a lot to get to the finals, and for all of them being a historic finals for their franchises, it's definitely going to be interesting to see. So it's exciting. A lot of young stars, a lot of changing of the guard, a bit. So all get kicked off tonight. But speaking of the changing of the guard, I don't know if you guys saw, but on his podcast, Nick Wright had kind of said, or he kind of like thought out loud about like did we kind of just watch the end of like the Jokic, Giannis, if you want to loop Joel Embiid in when, yeah, Joel Embiid, if you want to loop him in there, like, did we just kind of watch like the end of their era of basketball or era of winning championships, and now we're in kind of like the Anthony Edwards, Therese Halliburton, SGA? How do you guys feel about that?
It's tough to predict those type of things nowadays with all like the player movement that happens in all seasons, because like, and it's a high possibility Giannis just ends up staying with the Bucks. But even so, or even if you're talking about Joker, who will they add? If they add, because I feel like Jokic doesn't need much. I just feel like he needs competent basketball players around him to still serve a purpose, in the playoffs to make a run. So I don't think it's over to answer that question. I mean, I don't think it was ever up for Embiid, but I definitely don't think it's over for Giannis or Jokic in that sense. And I think you kind of saw, like, even though, like you said with Denver, they should have ran them out the building, honestly. If you're really being honest about it, Michael Porter Jr. scored less than 10 points in about 47 games. He's the player on their team that's getting he's making 35 whatever year, 35 plus a year. And then he's hurt on top of that, can't let this on. Then you got Aaron Gordon, which you showed that you can beat them without with a hobble Aaron Gordon, so I get that. But like still, like the pieces around Jokic is what he was able to do and get to Game 7. It means a lot. So I definitely don't think it's over for him. And then Giannis, man, I just think it's still the East, so I still give him a chance. At the end of the day. What about you, Chris?
I mean, I guess for me, it really depends on how they play the rest of the way. And I say that because it's not like either one of these teams has just like dominated per se as far as the playoffs went. I mean, obviously, OKC they did what they did with to the Grizzlies, but then like you said, you got games that you play good, and you got other games you just don't got it. And it's like, okay, they haven't gotten the consistency part down pat.
Yeah.
Even with the you can go to the East. I mean, even with the Knicks, like they beat the Celtics fair and square, but for the 6 games they played, they were getting blown out. And so they just start missing shots. And I mean, that's obviously part of, you got to make your shots and lead. So that it is what it is with that. But again, that's another example where I feel as if they haven't shown the capability of saying, hey, this is our time. Like y'all can, like you said, Kat, he can't stop that man at this point. I mean, if he actually gets some good running mates that ain't just taking days off, Denver is still a threat. I mean, Joel Embiid, it's just nothing you could really say to him. I mean, at this point in his career, it's just like, damn, you wish he didn't get injured all the time, but it's like it's inevitable. He's gonna play. He's gonna come back next year, and then at some point in time, bam, injury happened. Now it's like, okay, what you gonna do with Paul George and all that? So it's like,
yeah.
It's hard to say Nick Wright is not onto something. It's hard to say he's not, but at the same time, until they just out the league, I just can't say nah, they not. They're a threat every year. Each and every one of them. As long as health is always the issue.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously it's going to be interesting to see just in terms of there's been some reports that Giannis is going to want out. There's been some reports that have said like the Spurs are going to try to, I mean, not the Spurs, but the Bucks are going to try to gut the team that trades for Giannis. And I don't know, that sounds like they're trying to put out, some like PR nonsense to like maybe try to deter Giannis.
You
like,
ain't going
okay,
nowhere.
like that's, try to exert what power you may have. But at the end of the day, like, we don't have to play the games. Like, we don't have to play the games. There's no gutting him. Like, if he wants to go, he's gonna go.
He's gonna go. Yeah.
He's gonna go for a bag of chips. Like, no point putting it out in the media. It's not gonna work out like that. You don't have the power. It's okay. But so I don't know. It depends on how the moves work out. I think Denver can feel a little bit better than what they were coming into, and I would even say they could feel better than specifically how they may have felt at the end of the first series.
Yeah.
Because going Game 7 with the Clippers, given how James Harden, you know, it's not to say that it's not an accomplishment, but you know, as great as you play, you also got this guy laying an egg. When you go in toe to toe with a team that probably really should have won 70 games, you know, that's a little different. And you come around like, obviously Aaron Gordon should have been out there. I don't know why the fuck he did it. Like, I get it. Like, it sounds cool. You should have been out there. It was a waste of time. It was a waste of, like, you did what you needed to do. He made shots, but clearly you couldn't guard. You couldn't do nothing. Like, you had no point in being out there. Like, we don't need to do this anymore, athletes, just in general. If you can't go, you can't go. You don't need to be out there. It's all good. And if your hamstring would have been torn off the bone because Shea put you in the mix, like, then what? But like, luckily it didn't happen that way, especially if Denver would have won. Given how things were going at the beginning of it, it's like, okay, why risk this? Because we do have the best player in the league. Like, we should feel confident that he can get it done, and, you know, the guys around him step up. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. But I do feel like you can come away with it being like, okay, we've got Aaron Gordon. He's locked in. He should be a Denver Nugget, you know, basically as long as he wants to be at this point.
Yep.
I would say you come away thinking Christian Brown, he's locked in. He should be somebody that's a serious player for us. You know, whatever confidence they had from him from his rookie season, you know, maybe it didn't, you know, he's gotten better every season, but I think now, like, the past few games, the past few weeks is like kind of solidifying, like kind of like Austin Reeves, where you're like, okay, all right, like, it's serious. Like, he's not
guy,
just he's a guy. So I think you come away now, what you want to do with Jamal, you have a guy in Jamal, but how can you 100% rely on it? Just given the injuries, given how he plays, you know, kind of throughout the regular season. Not to say that he doesn't play bad, but he's not what he has been in the playoffs in the regular season. You know, is that something that can be sustainable where you're always, you know, in a position where you're trying to fight for 4, 3, 2, 1, or because the West is so close, maybe you lose a game and now you drop to 8?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, you would have to figure out the bench. I did see a couple. I saw something that was a little interesting. That's like, you know, trying to trade Michael Porter Jr. straight up for Kevin Durant. You know, bringing Russ back and kind of, you know, trying to let them finish out their career the right way, but also giving a scorer where KD is not the number one and he's not even close. No disrespect, he's not close to the number one at this point. So like, there's no like question about it, because there's other teams that he could go to that it's like, you know,
He might be that option.
Better, but like, do we really want to give him the ball over KD? Like, let's be for real. You know, I don't know, but they've definitely got to figure that out. But I do think that they can feel a little bit better, and I think you have a coach of the future. Like, he's clearly a better coach than Mike was. I'm sorry. Sure. Like, he's clearly a better coach than what Mike was at this point, and maybe specifically for that team.
Mm-hmm.
They just got to finish out the rest. But I would say that they could feel a little bit more confident. And then for the 76ers, it's all about health. But if anybody is a little bit more wide open, I would say that they're probably the one that's the furthest away from. Funny enough, they're probably the furthest away from title contention, while also being the furthest away from their window closing. Because if Joel Embiid comes back healthy, depending on what you do with Paul George, you just got a top 3 pick, and you have Jared McCain coming back, who's also, you know, somebody that's good for the future. Therese Maxey's going to be there, you know. So it fully depends on health. They can obviously make some moves with that third, or I'm pretty sure they got the 3rd pick or top 5 pick at the very least. You can at least make some moves and get better that way. So I don't know, but it is an interesting question, because there are teams that are getting better. You expect Houston to get better. You know, we'll see what happens with the Celtics, and if they, you know, they try to switch some things up. We'll see what happens with the Cavs as well. But, you know, for the team, I don't know, because you also gotta go back to what I was saying about the Pacers. Not trying to hate on the Pacers, but like, they got to the point that they got to in part because of injuries. You know, the Knicks got to the point that they got to in part because of injuries. So injuries can always happen. So it's hard to just be like the window is completely shut off or closed, especially when Jokic can give you 50, 20, and 30 on some silly shit. Like it's hard. It's hard. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I do get like you said, I do get the sentiment. Like it's a possibility. They're definitely in a bit of a crossroads. I would say for all franchises.
I would think add the Warriors in there too. Kind of on a different level because of course their guy is way older, but at the same time,
he was kind of saying like we've been viewing it as like Steph, KD. This was the last run for Steph, KD, Bron, James Harden, Kawhi. But in reality, should we have also been lumping Giannis, Jokic, and all of that in that too? That, like we've already been talking about this, like their window kind of closing. Should we have also been lumping them in that as well? But yeah, the Warriors. I mean, their window's probably been shut down for a little minute. But no disrespect, but I mean, you make a big trade for Jimmy Butler, and the former Heat guys are even coming out like,
no, he's not that guy.
He's not that guy. So
he's not that guy. That's crazy.
It's a lot of things that are going to change. Brian Windhorst has kind of said, been hinting at it. He thinks a lot of big names will be on the move. Obviously, we've talked about Giannis, Kevin Durant. Obviously he's a big name. There's other guys. Paul George could be somebody that could be on the move. Joel Embiid could technically be somebody that's on the move as well. LeBron James is somebody that could be on the move. I mean, there's a lot of I don't want to say Jokic because I just don't think that's. I think he's in a good spot, but maybe Jamal Murray, maybe Michael Porter Jr.
Shit, JB,
maybe Jaylen Brown. Like, there's gonna. I mean, it's conversations that could be had, should be had. I don't know. The only thing about Jaylen Brown is, it's like you have to decide: are you 100% confident that he can be your guy? And if you are, what team does he go to where it's beneficial for both? Like, it's beneficial for him, because I think at this point, like the Celtics, you can't just dog him out. Like, in my opinion, you can't just get rid of him and just send him to fucking die. Like, you gotta get him to a respectable place. This is a guy that just helped you win a championship. Has kept you relevant. Obviously Jason Tatum is the marquee, and I say my stuff about Jason Tatum, but Jaylen Brown was picked before him. He was kind of the real bridge before Jason Tatum. So, you can't just like, here you go, Wizards, So
that'd be so fucked up. A-Cast that'll get the Wizards out of purgatory.
Send them to the Hornets. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
I mean, honestly,
his former coach is there, so
if they wanted to shake some stuff up, I think both. I honestly feel like would be a benefit in a weird way, because I feel like Jaylen Brown is the type of player that would be kind of a culture setter for them. Whereas LaMelo can kind of go to I'm saying Jaylen Brown for LaMelo straight up. Like, LaMelo's not staying there. So LaMelo coming back to the Celtics, I think that would be good for him to get some real structure, learn how to play basketball for real, not
that silly shit he be doing.
So like, I think that, I don't know if, like, I'm not saying that the Hornets would be a title contender. I don't know. They might be in that lower half of the East, but I do think that could be beneficial for both teams. But the Hornets, I mean, they got some decisions to make, because the LaMelo era is, in my opinion, it should be over with. I mean,
I'm just saying I don't see how you could sit there and just run that shit back and then just add a draft pick and be like, oh yeah, it's fine, we're gonna run. Like, no, like, something has to change. Something got to change.
Half the season, every season of his career, damn near. It's on top of the injuries, they're not necessarily, picking up, they're going backwards more than they're going forwards in terms of wins. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's going to be an interesting offseason, especially given how we'll see how the finals play out and who ends up coming out coming out on top. But I mean, I think it's good for the league. We've got a bunch of new young stars that are getting an opportunity to win a championship. A new person, a new team is getting an opportunity to win a championship. So I do think that it's beneficial for the league. Number one, number two, I think it's beneficial for fans and players to kind of see who is going to be the one to take that jump and that leap. Because whomever wins a championship, whoever wins an MVP, I mean, that puts you in a different realm. We saw with Jaylen Brown, I mean, people already love Jaylen Brown, but we saw at least for that next 2 months, like, he was in magazines, like he had his little stuff going on with Team USA, like he was getting more love, and then he was getting to that point, even though he was kind of getting love, but we see it changes people all the time. So we'll see who that is, who that's going to be, and how that's going to be for their career. It's going to be exciting. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what number 2 step up, because Jalen Williams,
hey man, hot seat. Hot seat, buddy.
Karl Anthony Towns, big time hot seat.
Julius Randle, are you going to continue with doing what you're going to do, or are you going to fold?
Big time hot seat, because Mikal Bridges, he done been to a ship, and he will kind of the one that, like, we give credit to Jalen Brunson, and Mikal Bridges is really the one that was making a lot of big fucking tough ass shots. Like the mid ranges was killer. OG Anunoby has been to a championship. He's been to deep playoff runs. Yeah. So Cat, they traded you because they felt maybe they could get better with picking up Julius Randle and another piece. Like Julius Randle, same thing. They felt that they could get better getting Cat.
Sound like it's about to be a Timberwolves Knicks series, ain't it?
I mean, that would be a phenomenal. I wouldn't hate it, especially given even us when we did our podcast on this, when they got traded, we were both like, we were all like, what,
what
dumbass trade?
Like, yeah, what does that do for you? And then, I mean, hey,
did any of you guys get better? Did you guys really get worse? Which, I mean, throughout the whole regular season, it looked like both teams kind of got worse
a little bit, yeah.
So that would be an excellent, just for the storylines, for the trade, how the season kicked off, literally like right a couple weeks before the season kicked off. That would be a phenomenal way to end the season in terms of storylines. And then obviously the New York, all the hype that's going to go into a New York team possibly winning a championship. I mean, it might burn that place down.
Man, we knocking down billboards and shit, sitting on top, sitting on top of billboard after round 2.
Yeah, windy.
Yeah. And that trash shit was funny though. Them throwing trash at that place was that shit crazy, bro.
Nasty, but hey, shout out to him, because I mean it went viral, and now he get to go to a game. So
free trip to a game now.
Yeah. In Madison Square Garden too, ain't it?
I believe
or is
so.
It in Indiana?
Or it might be Indiana. He might take him. Yeah, bring it there. Yeah. You want to set him up that bad?
Hey, nah.
You want to set him up again?
Hey, them ticket prices definitely different.
In New York, for sure.
Them ticket prices for sure different.
It's funny because I saw today that the for OKC and Timberwolves to get in, the ticket price was like $70 today, $80 or something like that. I'm like, bruh, like, man, be here in Atlanta, I would have went.
Man. Yeah. Depends.
Yeah. Hey, man. Well, we'll see how much more expensive it got as you get closer, but I would have tried to go at least. But. Switching gears into the NFL, obviously Brock Purdy, a guy that has been under much scrutiny, and it's been a bit of anticipation in terms of what this deal would look like, has officially signed his contract extension with the San Francisco 49ers, and they're making a lot of noise because not only did they sign Brock, but they also extended George Kittle, and then extended Fred Warner a couple days later following the Brock Purdy, signing. But given the number, obviously he has a no trade clause that was also added to it as well. How did you guys feel about the deal and the 49ers outlook moving forward?
What was the per year? Do y'all know? Y'all remember?
It was around 53.
53.
53 is some shame.
I mean, the deal had to be done at this point. I mean, it was in the benefit of both parties, but I guess you say more so San Francisco because they got some decisions to make. I mean, they obviously have re-signed people they probably consider like cornerstone pieces for their franchise. So, but I mean, shout out to Brock Purdy. I mean, being Mr. Irrelevant to getting a big time contract. I mean, that was obviously the biggest talking point is he was their quarterback and he was only making X amount of dollars in comparison to all the other starting quarterbacks. So you knew he wasn't just gonna go in there and get something small. But I mean, I guess it worked out for both sides. They didn't have to really break the bank crazily to sign him, and he got his money. So, and now now you got to perform because once you get that money, obviously, and you start signing other people, there's not too many pieces you could just have at your disposal, and and for a certain amount of time too. So, but nah, I mean, it's deserved for him, I guess. I mean, he's been a starter quarterback, and he's been performed. He had his ups and downs, but I mean, at this point, I mean, they don't have a starter, so they had no choice for real. Oh. Well, they could have. I guess. I give Matt.
Mac Jones.
Matt.
Who was also making more money than Brock Purdy prior to this extension.
Facts.
See, crazy word, but hey, shout out to Brock Purdy though, man. Get your money, bro.
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of confidence that they're putting in him with this contract. Whether it works out or not, we'll see. But always with these contracts, we look at the guarantee. And for him to get over 180 million of that guarantee really shows, all right, he's our guy. We're just gonna roll with that. It didn't take no drawn out kind of back and forth throughout the all season. He still went to OTAs. He still went to he was still working. So it's good to see that. And you never really thought that he would skip anything like that or anything like that. But shout out to Brock Purdy, man. But you got to show that you're that guy. You got to show that you're a $53 million. And I understand that the market is the market because he's getting paid. He's up there like, what is he between like Trevor and Jared Goff, right between them, Trevor and Tua. So in that little range. But you got to show that you can carry a team, honestly. And I mean, we'll see how it works out for them. I understand that they kind of had to do these extensions. I'm sure they did the extensions to open up money, and it's kind of that same thing. It's just kicking it down the road. Is what it is. But they did open up a good amount of money over the next year or so. So we'll see how it kind of works out for San Francisco. But yeah, I mean, I was expecting more in that not even 50 range, that 45 to 50 range. But the market is the market, so it is what it is. What you say, Chris? You on mute?
Oh man, you knew that shit wasn't gonna happen, man.
Nah, I mean I knew it. I know. It's crazy because like if you look at the per years for these quarterbacks, it's like okay, you get to that 45, and it's like okay, you got Kirk Cousins, you got Pat Mahomes, of course, is there at 45, whatever. You got Kyler Murray, and then you jump up, and it's Justin Herbert at 52, Lamar Jackson. Like it's such a mixed bag, just depending on the year. It's really hard to really judge these quarterback contracts on an APY basis at this point in time. So it's it's what it is.
Yeah, and I think I honestly think Brock Purdy kind of did him a favor, which is why he got the no trade clause, because I mean he could have pushed the envelope and been getting paid higher than Dak, and I understand that there's a lot of skepticism in part because of where he was drafted, in part because the 49ers had success pre-Brock Purdy, but there's a lot. I honestly feel like there's a big common misconception about really there's a lot of conversation that Jimmy Garoppolo. People act like Jimmy Garoppolo was a bad quarterback, which he was not, and I think that needs to that idea needs to stop. Like people need to stop pushing that idea. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't get let go from the 49ers because he was a bad quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo was looking to be replaced by the 49ers because he could not stay healthy. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. And there's gonna be another conversation. Another person that's just to plug this in. similar situation going on in Indianapolis. The Colts are not looking at getting Daniel Jones in there because Anthony Richardson is bad, even though the stats may suggest one thing. The reason Daniel Jones is there is because Anthony Richardson cannot stay healthy. So, same thing with Brock Purdy or Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo, yeah, obviously what he did with the Raiders didn't make him look better in the light. That is obviously a couple years later, multiple different injuries later that the man had, and then he struggled in a bad situation. Maybe that, I think people confuse, try to put too much on it because because Jimmy Garoppolo kind of stunk in Las Vegas, but that that is a misconception that I feel like people need to stop trying to conflate the two. And Brock Purdy, it's always so easy to say that somebody. We always want to say somebody is good because of a coach, because of this, because of that. And I completely understand they had a lot of good players, but it's so hard for me because it's like you want to have your cake and eat it too. It's like you guys want to say that Deebo Samuel sucks as a receiver and can't do this, that, and the third. He's fat, blah, 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 but he was carrying Brock. Christian McCaffrey, you want to say running backs don't matter, but Christian McCaffrey's the only reason they won the Super Bowl. You want to, it's so somebody has to be doing something. Somebody has to be throwing the ball. Somebody has to be conducting the offense as a whole that got this team to back-to-back NFC championships, a Super Bowl. And then when everybody and their mama get fucking hurt, they obviously kind of cratered a little bit. But so it's tough because of the situation with Jimmy, and you've seen success in that offense with a different quarterback. I can understand having a bit of hesitation of paying him that. But at the end of the day, if this game is about winning and this game is about winning and stats, you could put his stats up against anybody. And, it's going to look good. You could put his wins up against anybody and it's going to look good. So it's a little tough, but, I definitely think that he did them a bit of a favor. He probably was like, okay, I understand what y'all are saying. I hear what y'all are saying. Y'all don't want to pay me XYZ because you might have seen success with another quarterback. But with that being said, you didn't find that same success with Nick Mullins. You didn't find that same success with Trey Lance and all these other guys that you had outside of Jimmy Garoppolo. But, if I'm going to take less money, you ain't about to just send me to, once again, like Jaylen Brown, you ain't about to just send me to the Cleveland Browns and think that it's going to be all good. Nah, we're going to have to work this out. We're going to have to figure it out, and I'm going to go to a place where I feel like I can thrive. Maybe, if it comes down the road that Brock Purdy is not that good, maybe he ends up trying to go to a Sean McVay or with the Vikings. We'll see what JJ McCarthy does and stuff like that. So
he gotta stay healthy too. I know, Brock Purdy's has we'll see, but
and that was also another thing that I was going to mention. He doesn't want to find himself down that rabbit hole that Jimmy Garoppolo was consistently finding himself at. So and then I do want to also add, there has been people that have come out and said, Julian Edelman being most notable, that kind of felt like is Jimmy Garoppolo kind of like the I'm hurt but I'm not injured but I'm still not going to play type of guy, or is he the guy that's going to go out there and give it his all regardless? And I do think that could have also been a bit of a factor maybe in the locker room. They're like, all right, you're hurt, but you're not you can play. You can play. You can give us some you can give us Aaron Gordon. You can play, so you need to be out there. So that has been stuff that some teammates have said about Brock. I mean, not Brock. I keep wanting to mix Jimmy Garoppolo, but so that's also another factor to add in there as well. But 49ers doing their thing. We'll see. Like I was saying in our group chat, everybody when the schedule released, everybody want to convince themselves that they've got an easy schedule, and everybody's going to be 10-7, and you know it's minimum 10 games we're winning this year. Minimum. There's no shot that we're winning less than 10 games given this schedule. The 49ers can 100% look at that schedule, in my opinion, and be like, Hey now.
That
10,
schedule
10-7 is the minimum that we're going to win.
different, boy.
That schedule is schedule don't look too tough on paper given what last year looked like, and so we'll see. Obviously, there's surprises and changes every year, but I do think that the 49ers are a little bit more primed to get back to what we're used to as opposed to what last year looked like as well.
I agree with that.
We'll see. But in terms of, on a smaller note, obviously Fred Warner also got a contract extension. He didn't like Brock Purdy. He didn't necessarily, push the needle forward in terms of like breaking the bank in on the high end number for linebackers. Number one, given that the market hadn't really moved since he signed, or the last time he signed, aside from Roquan Smith getting his contract. But how do you guys feel about that? Him signing another contract with them for another 3 years?
I mean, I like it from both sides, really. I feel like maybe also his injury had something to do with it. He was apparently playing last year with a broken foot, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. But it's probably more injury related than anything to go ahead and get it done. But I mean, he's still arguably the top linebacker in the league. Although last year the argument could be made that obviously Zach Bond might have had a better year than him, but most people still, if they would have to rank linebacker, they're gonna rank him number one anyway. So I mean, you like to lock up somebody like that. Like I said earlier, it's like a like one of them franchise cornerstone type people. Like, he set the tone, especially for their defense. Probably been the most consistent thing on their defense each and every year, maybe outside of Nick Bosa, but I mean, you could argue that. But I mean, good contract to me.
Yeah, I think you had to do it now. If you're going to do it, if you're going to extend him, do it as early as possible for this linebacker. He's 28 now. He'll be 29 later this year. So you get him into early 30, 31 before, and then you have a real decision to make about how he is, how his injuries have been after a couple of years. Does he still have anything left in the tank? But you want to give him one last big contract, I think he deserves it for sure.
Yeah, and I think so as well. But I do think, as I mentioned, with the market not really changing, I think that it kind of highlights why his importance in terms of, even with Zach Bond. I mean, we've obviously got to see another year as great of a year that he had. I mean, you can't have a better year than that. And coming in on a smaller contract, becoming an All-Pro at a different position, and winning a Super Bowl, and then getting a contract extension at the end. That's as great as
that's a great ass year, boy.
As he possibly have.
He had a great year. That's a great year.
But obviously he does have to have some repeat success. Maybe not necessarily all pro, but he has to kind of show that he has staying power. But it does kind of just highlight the lack of there being an every down line off ball linebacker that is just in that top echelon like Roquan Smith and Fred Warner. To go back to the Colts, my own team, Zaire Franklin was an All-Pro this past year, but you look at some of these top 10 linebacker lists, he might not be on the list at all. He might not be on the list of top 15 for real for some people. Yeah. And he was an All-Pro. Like it should be no question. Like he was All-Pro, top 4 linebacker in the league. Like that's typically what All-Pro means. So that, I mean, I think that kind of highlights like they're needing to be more and maybe that kind of shows why a guy like Campbell dropped in the draft, because people are like, look, we're just, we think that he has some high upside, but at the end of the day, we're seeing across the league that we're just not getting these guys that can both play the run and cover and be excellent at both at the off-ball linebacker position. So maybe that's why we didn't see as many linebackers, because, I mean, really it was him, Schlesinger at the beginning of the second, and then
Demetrius Knight.
That was kind of really it in the first couple of days, and then Monday, and then the rest of the guys started going. But it's going to be interesting to see.
A lot of them are moving to, even if you're 6'2", this is like threshold that you have in college too. If you're like 6'2", if you're over 240, they moving your ass to edge, or they moving you like, or you yourself are trying to move to edge, because that's where you get that money. That's where you can make the impact to get those stats. So I mean.
And on the flip side, on the other side of it, they're converting, bigger safeties to linebacker because of the coverage ability and being like, okay, well, we're not going to have that. Maybe he's not a great run defender, but we're not going to have a big drop off on that, as opposed to maybe having a big drop off of having this guy that can only run defend and not really cover. Especially given where the league is, both tight ends, backs, slot receivers, and the need for the linebacker position to be able to cover. So we see it, and teams at the end of the draft are picking up guys, safeties that they expect to be converted. Dan Jackson from Georgia was a guy that a lot of people thought could possibly be a converted safety from linebacker. So that's something that we'll probably see a lot moving forward. But that is a position to watch, just to see how other guys just kind of step up and progress in their career. So,
yep,
that's true.
It's interesting. But shout out Fred Warner, shout out the 49ers getting some of their guys in. Obviously, Joe Thuney also signed a contract extension, something that was also a little bit of lesser news, and that was probably a little bit more to clear or to open up some room in the future, as well as take care of a guy that has kind of had a great season at multiple positions last year. And hopefully being a tone setter for the Bears' new regime. But outside of that, we are getting closer and closer, like I said at the top of the show, to crowning a champion in the NBA. Who you guys, before we sign off, who you guys got coming out on both sides?
My idea of who I think will come out. I think the Timberwolves gonna shot OKC and come out of the West.
Okay.
And Ant gets his shot to be, where everybody wants him to be. Everybody's pushing him to be. He gets his shot to do it. And I just think the Pacers is gonna beat the Knicks, man.
Okay.
I just feel like, it's one of them teams that everybody's gonna write off in general. I mean, everybody, you're gonna have the few that be like, oh, Pacers dangerous, but most people are pulling for the Knicks. Most people believe the Knicks gonna win. And I mean, they have if we talking across the board as far as player versus player, they probably have the better starting five, but it's something not right with the Knicks, and I don't know what it is, but something ain't right with them boys. Plus, they just beat us, so I can't have them winning the fucking championship, no way. But that's who I got: the Timberwolves and the Pacers.
Okay, I like that. Out of the East, I'm gonna go with the Knicks, but I will have a little caveat. Each round so far, Jalen Brunson has come up with some. He's been nicked. No pun intended. Damn, that was lame. That's
lame, man.
that was lame. But no, he's been, what it is, an ankle, whatever. Like he's been having some little shit here and there. That shit piles up more and more as you get into the playoffs. I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm gonna pick the Knicks, but I would not be surprised if we do see, knock on wood still, but I would not be surprised if we do see a Jalen Brunson injury that could knock him out a game or two, and that would change the whole complexion of the series. But I'm gonna go Knicks, and then in the West, I'm gonna go OKC. I personally would like the Timberwolves to win, but I just like picking it smartly. I gotta go OKC with this. I just think they are the better team. They have the ability to get out going on these guys, and it could put your bigger guys, Randall and Gobert, in a tough spot when you gotta run with these guys up and down the court. Minnesota's defense is better. It's significantly better than Denver's defense. I would tell you that, but I just think there's still ways to combat it with your transition. So I go OKC.
Yeah, and I think both the series are going to be very interesting. And somebody that this is funny because we've been talking about the young stars for for the past couple episodes, but especially today, or at least I have. But the Pacers' actual best player is actually Pascal Siakam, and it's probably really not close.
And you know what? That pisses me off. They
gets absolutely no
they do
respect.
not run no kind of offense through that man, bro. That shit's so irritating. But
and I mean, because Therese Halliburton is like Steve Nash. He is Steve Nash. In my opinion, he's kind of the new era Steve Nash. He's gonna have some games where he gives you 2 points. And he's going to have some games where he gives you 10 points. But the offense is always going to be efficiently ran. He doesn't really turn the ball over, similar to some other guys that you see that have kind of a high usage or, always have the ball in their hands. But I'm saying this more so because, if the Pacers are able to get to the championship, and even if they win, we might need to start having a little bit more of a conversation about Pascal Siakam, because it's not, he might not necessarily have the accolades in terms of the All NBA, but he would be a 2-time champion. The first time he won a championship, he beat the Warriors, who were going for a three-peat. Obviously, that was a Kevin Durant injury, but a lot of people give Kawhi the respect where, Siakam dropped like 40 in the first game.
He's a good two option.
Siakam was a fantastic number 2. And I remember specifically because I'm a big Siakam guy. But I was getting into it with somebody around that time because I kept saying, like, Siakam is a way better player than Ben Simmons. And this was Ben Simmons at the time. And it's just funny to see how things have gone since then.
Spicy P.
Spicy P. But for real. But once again, I have to say this. We really do not give enough credit to how good and how deep that freaking Raptors team was. Like, I know people, Kevin Durant and the Warriors.
People forget who all were on that team. That's how good they are.
You have Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Pascal Siakam, Kawhi, Kyle Lowry, Norman Powell, Van Fleet. It is
and he was on there too, wasn't it?
Bro, it is a deep, crazy deep roster that and so people always get mad when I'm like, I don't know if they just would have I'm not saying that the Warriors would have lost the series if Kevin Durant was healthy, but people think it would have just been they would have got him up out of there. But you also had OG was on the team, like I mentioned earlier. Danny Green,
Danny Green was on that
nasty. The team was nasty. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Lin. The team was nasty, bro.
That's a lot of folks.
It's a lot of
that's some players.
And
that's
it's not just some names. They were actually hooping too. So I say all that to say, I just think the Knicks. I just think the Knicks. Jalen Brunson, has kind of lived up to the clutch player of the year more than we've probably seen anybody do since the award was named, especially in the playoffs this year. And I just think that will continue. I do think that we could possibly see games look a lot like how the Celtics-Knicks games work, where because the Pacers can get up and down pretty quickly. But I think the Knicks are a little bit more mentally tough than what the Cavs shown, that they will be able to, make those comebacks and complete the comebacks. Because it's not like the Cavs didn't, make comebacks when they were getting down or even get up on huge leads. They couldn't keep the lead, couldn't complete the comeback, couldn't inbound a pass, just silly shit. So, and then I want Ant-Man to go, but I can't go over what I've seen, bro. These, OKC been putting niggas in the pack when they want to play. You can't do nothing with them, and when you have the amount of defenders, real defenders, not just some okay defenders. When you have real defenders like Alex Caruso, linebacker Dort,
Lou Dort.
You got some real defenders that and Hartenstein, given the size that Chet maybe can't necessarily handle, but he can still be weak side rim protector and stuff like that. It just gets incredibly tough, and I think that they have the ability to give Ant a lot of problems with the amount of people that they can switch on him, and on both sides, for both the teams that I'm picking to lose, even though they've gotten to the point that they're at, we're giving them a lot of credit. And that's also why I wanted to mention Pascal Siakam. But, Tyrese Halliburton has not been just some really great playoff performer. He's had a couple great games, especially in that last series. He obviously had the 3-point shot. And then in the last game of the series, he went crazy against the Cavs. But, he's also had some dud playoff games. Same thing with Anthony Edwards. We want to give Ant the face of the league. All this stuff is something that we've been talking about for the past couple years. Ant is not some great playoff performer. He's not at all. He hasn't been better than any of the young stars, really, if you want to keep it a being outside of maybe Halliburton in the playoffs or consistently. Like, he wasn't better than Luka last year. He had a couple good games in the Lakers series, but he also had a lot of duds. He wasn't necessarily spectacular in this Warriors series. They just didn't have the full firepower. So that is also a piece. This is going to be a real test for Ant, which is why I mentioned earlier, like, does he have another gear? Because he is going to need to have that other gear, I think, to win this series. But I just don't see it this time. So I think he's just a bit too young. So I'm going with OKC and the Knicks. And we can get into the finals later on when we see how things play.
Sounds good.
Okay, sounds good to me. Shit.
But with that being said, that gives us a wrap to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast. We will catch y'all next time.
Yes, sir.